In a landmark move signaling growing regional solidarity, China, South Korea, and Japan have agreed to strengthen cooperation on free trade and investment as a countermeasure to U.S. protectionist policies. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. His agreement came during a high-level meeting of trade ministers, the first such gathering in 5 years, reflecting the urgency of safeguarding trade in the face of rising global uncertainties. The meeting was carefully timed. Within days, the Trump administration planned to implement a sweeping set of tariffs targeting a broad spectrum of imports, including automobiles, trucks, and auto parts. These sectors are vital to the economic health of South Korea and Japan, both major automotive exporters, and crucial to China's vast network of manufacturing and component supply chains. The trilateral consultation represented a strategic effort to preemptively manage the anticipated disruptions and signal to global markets that East Asia is prepared to coordinate its response to protectionism. Representing their nations were South Korea's Minister of Trade, Industry, and Energy An Duk-jun, Japan's Vice Minister of Economy, Trade, and Industry Yoji Muto, and China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao. Following extensive discussions, the ministers issued a joint statement committing to accelerate negotiations for a comprehensive trilateral free trade agreement (FTA) and to create a predictable trade and investment environment. In the context of current global volatility, predictability has become an economic necessity, especially for investors, manufacturers, and multinational corporations seeking stability in planning long-term projects. Rising fragmentation and economic uncertainty. Minister An stressed the importance of a coordinated response to global challenges. Today's economic and trade environment is marked by increasing fragmentation of the global economy, he noted, highlighting the growing unpredictability in global markets caused by unilateral trade measures, shifting alliances, and escalating tariffs. Japanese trade official Yasuji Komiyama echoed these concerns, observing that the international environment surrounding us is constantly changing, and uncertainties are increasing. For Japan, where exports account for nearly 20% of GDP, maintaining predictable trade relationships is essential to sustain economic growth and protect jobs in export-driven industries such as automotive manufacturing, electronics, and industrial machinery. Chinese official Wang Liping took a more critical tone, warning that unilateralism and protectionism are spreading, and calling on the three nations to assume responsibility for defending the multilateral trading system. Wang highlighted the economic weight of the three countries. Together, they account for 20% of the world's population, 24% of global GDP, and 19% of international merchandise trade. This collective economic influence positions them to not only respond to U.S. tariffs but also to shape the trajectory of global trade. The strategic importance of East Asian economies. China, Japan, and South Korea form the core of East Asia's economic powerhouse. China dominates global manufacturing, providing both finished goods and intermediate components for industries worldwide. Japan is renowned for high-end manufacturing, robotics, and automotive technology, while South Korea excels in semiconductors, shipbuilding, electronics, and advanced materials. Together, their interlinked economies create a resilient supply chain ecosystem, with disruptions in one nation reverberating across the region and beyond. The importance of East Asia's trade network extends beyond exports. Foreign direct investment (FDI) flows, technological collaboration, and regional infrastructure projects, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, depend on stability in the trilateral economic relationship. A coordinated free trade framework could enhance efficiency, lower costs, and increase competitiveness in a global market increasingly shaped by uncertainty and protectionism. U.S. tariffs. Scope, strategy, and market implications. President Trump has framed his tariff measures as a response to perceived long-standing trade imbalances and unfair practices, particularly targeting China but also affecting U.S. allies. Starting April 2, the U.S. planned to impose new tariffs on automobiles, trucks, and auto parts, with rates tailored to each trading partner. These measures directly threaten the export-dependent economies of Japan and South Korea, while indirectly impacting China through global supply chains. The automotive sector is particularly vulnerable. Japan exported over $40 billion in vehicles to the U.S. in 2017, while South Korea's Hyundai and Kia brands accounted for more than 10% of U.S. car imports. China, while less dominant in finished vehicles, is deeply embedded in global automotive supply chains, including batteries, electronics, and components critical for the growing electric vehicle (EV) market. Disruptions in these supply chains could have cascading effects across multiple sectors, from electronics to logistics. Despite the threat of tariffs, Trump has indicated some flexibility, suggesting that negotiations with individual partners could result in exemptions or reduced rates. Global financial markets responded with cautious optimism, though investors remain wary as uncertainty lingers. Multinational corporations have been forced to revisit supply chain strategies, consider local production alternatives, and weigh the cost of potential tariff-induced price increases. Historical context of trilateral cooperation. The concept of a trilateral free trade agreement among China, Japan, and South Korea is not new. Talks date back to the early 2000s, motivated by the success of other regional trade initiatives such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) and the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA). Yet negotiations have repeatedly stalled due to political tensions, historical disputes, and broader geopolitical rivalry. Long-standing historical grievances between Japan and South Korea, particularly over wartime history and sovereignty issues, have often obstructed progress. Strategic competition between China and Japan has further complicated negotiations. Nevertheless, external pressures, such as the 2008 global financial crisis, have historically provided momentum for cooperation, suggesting that the current wave of U.S. protectionism could serve as a similar catalyst. Analysts argue that the current environment is particularly conducive to renewed progress. The combined economic weight of China, Japan, and South Korea gives them leverage not only to protect their own markets but also to influence global trade norms. A successful trilateral FTA could harmonize regulations, strengthen supply chain resilience, and reduce dependence on the U.S. market, all while signaling a commitment to multilateralism. Sector-specific implications. Automotive industry. With tariffs targeting cars and parts, Japan and South Korea face direct challenges. Reduced exports could lower profits, affect domestic employment, and force manufacturers to consider localizing production in the U.S. or shifting to alternative markets. China's component suppliers could also see decreased demand. Electronics and semiconductors. South Korea, home to global leaders such as Samsung and SK Hynix, could experience disruptions in supply chains. China, as a major assembler and consumer market, could face rising costs and export bottlenecks, potentially slowing the rollout of new technologies like 5G and EVs. Industrial machinery and robotics. Japan's advanced machinery exports could see slower demand, particularly in the U.S., impacting industrial modernization projects globally. Trilateral coordination may allow Japan to redirect exports within East Asia and mitigate losses. China's vast manufacturing base could be affected by tariffs indirectly. For instance, U.S. tariffs on electronics and components could reduce imports of consumer goods assembled in China, prompting companies to diversify supply chains or shift production elsewhere. Beyond economics, the trilateral agreement carries significant geopolitical weight. By coordinating more closely, China, Japan, and South Korea can reduce their vulnerability to unilateral U.S. actions and assert greater influence over global trade rules. It also signals a potential shift in the balance of power, where East Asia collectively emerges as a counterweight to U.S.-centric trade policies. The agreement also demonstrates the value of pragmatism in foreign policy. Despite historical and strategic differences, the three nations are prioritizing economic stability and growth. This could pave the way for deeper collaboration in other areas, including technology, energy, and regional security initiatives. While the path toward a formal trilateral FTA remains challenging, the current moment presents unprecedented opportunities. Coordinated action could stabilize markets, enhance competitiveness, and protect the interests of East Asia's combined population of nearly 1.6 billion people. For now, the joint statement by China, Japan, and South Korea serves as both a warning to Washington and a commitment to global trade stability. East Asia is ready to defend the principles of free trade, ensure predictability, and strengthen its influence on the international stage. As the world watches, the success, or failure, of this trilateral initiative will not only shape the future of regional trade but could redefine the rules of engagement for global commerce in an era increasingly dominated by uncertainty, unilateralism, and protectionist